Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series where we're still going after 100 plus episodes and multiple hours watched. Hundreds of hours watched, and I thank each and every one of you for sticking around. And I know I just put it in the beginning few slides, but I'm going to go ahead and say it just again. If you like my content and you want to see more reviews just like this and a few other things, if I ever get the time because I keep putting it off, then go ahead and subscribe and like the videos if you feel like. You don't have to like the videos, but if you want to see more of them, subscribing always helps. Otherwise, just keep showing up and remembering. But until then, it's all fine. It's all okay. You can do whatever you want. So let's go ahead and get into the review. You see, today we're going to be looking at a little series known as Kanojo x Kanojo x Kanojo. And this time we're going to be looking at the final episode of it, episode 3 in fact, which is done by our friends over at MS Pictures. Running at about 27 minutes and 43 seconds long with a total of 12 categories, notable of which are filmed, vanilla, and harem. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a little bit of a rift that I think is forming between the term vanilla and every other tag that exists, and I'm not exactly saying that certain things can't be vanilla, but one of the videos I've been working on for a while is what can be in vanilla before it's no longer vanilla. So if you guys are interested in a video like that, then maybe I'll be able to make it if I get enough, if I get like 3 people saying, yeah, that's cool. Well, so I mean, if you want to see one, that's cool. I'll be willing to make it. That being said, the rest of this episode, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's the best, but I wouldn't say it's anything bad. Not necessarily because of anything special, but I feel like this one had the comedic writing that it needed. So let's go ahead and get into the events of the actual episode. You see, this episode itself starts off with a bit of a recap, actually, of the final scenes of the last episode, leading into what causes this episode. And if you're not sure, the last episode essentially ends with the scene of itself. That being said, it starts with the main character and Akina essentially still in her maid uniform, starting off the episode with scene 1. Scene number 1 starts at 20 seconds in and goes all the way to the 5-minute mark. That's a nice spicy. That is a 440 right there. 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Approximately that is actually the exact price of the Hierophant Bio-Titan if you want to get it off Forge World for Warhammer. Yes, I have an addiction, and no, I'm not going to stop. I can stop whenever I want. That's a lie. I'm just going to keep going. I'm such a fucking terrible person. That being said, you see, after the recap almost, it then leads into most of the main characters kind of having this rift between them, because in that last scene, there was kind of a switch up between the different girls and all of them who got to pick him, because at that point they had been realized, like, oh, we all want to, like, screw the same dude. So, like, what are we going to do? And there's kind of like a back and forth between a lot of them, kind of figuring out who's going to be the one who gets to be gets to be best girl. And a lot of the times when I looked into the comments of this video, I found a lot of people saying Mafuyu was best girl, and this episode kind of makes me realize why. If I had to go off of looks alone, it's gonna be Natsumi, but this episode kind of brought me up to be like, yeah, Natsuyu's definitely it, or Mafuyu is definitely it. So let's go ahead and get in further. You see, as the rift is forming between all the different sisters and being like, but I want to be with him, but I want to be with him. There's also kind of the growing pains of like how they're going to be able to like make sure that the how the business is going to be doing now that there's a large festival coming up, and they're also competing with a national chain brand that is right next to them. I don't know how zoning laws can get around that, because I'm pretty sure most places that have like a McDonald's near them can't have any other restaurants that are similar to them within like at least 500 feet, but this one is like literally across the road. That seems like bad practice. So they kind of go through this a little bit of what's going on, and like astoundingly later on in the night, actually, Mafuyu actually comes out of the closet and just drops a whole bunch of, at least I think it's a closet. It was a sliding door, and I don't know any place that has sliding doors other than closets, but Japanese homes may be different than mine, I don't know. That being said, she drops off a few recipes that are in a different language, and she ends up getting them. And I don't know if they were supposed to be in a different language, because I think they were in Japanese. They may just be like, I know kanji is horseshit, or katakana, was it? I don't know. I'm very, very, like, lived in America my whole life. Everything else is a little blurry. All right, I need to look into stuff more, because if you're dumb your whole life, then like, what are you doing? So that being said, he ends up getting those things, and he actually has to ask one of his sister's friends. Sister is a loose term. They are not his sisters. They are not blood related. I am making sure that it is a fact. I know the family title is, or the family tag is in this, but it is not genuine. That being said, once he like gets one of his sister's friends to like kind of figure out what does it say, she actually gets it out, and it actually ends up being herbs. So later on, there is a secondary festival that's going on, or I think the main festival that they're actually going for, but the taste testing for all the different stuff is going on like after it. So what happens is they end up doing what they should do, and they kind of make money while they're at the festival. But in the background, one of the people, mainly the main character, is out there kind of just going around finding whatever he can when it comes to those different herbs. And they actually all end up being flowers, which I don't know how that's going to go, because if you pick the wrong flower, you're serving nightshade to a bunch of people that want a lot of different ice creams, and this is going to be a very different thing other than what it needs to be. So what happens is they go out and get it, and then he ends up delivering it all to Natsumi after the festival when they're all being packed up. And he delivers it to Natsumi and does what every main character in these sorts of videos does. He lucky perverts himself into a bit of a close area of them, to which case it leads into scene number 2. I'd probably say this is my favorite scene of the whole thing, and that scene number 2 itself starts at 13 minutes and 50 seconds and goes all the way to 18 minutes on the dot. This is twice now that it's happened on the dot, but sadly it doesn't happen 3 times in a row. After collecting all the different herbs and those two being together for their time, this was kind of like out in the woods kind of style, like a van parked out with all the stuff that they had set up. And after that, they go home, and he wants to clean up because he's been hunting different stuff out there this entire time. And once he gets into the bath, Mifuyu's in there with him. I don't care if you are like dating or like together or just in general like sleeping together. Taking a bath with 2 people is so counterintuitive, because like baths only have a small amount of space. Showers is okay because water's coming in from like top. It can land on both of you. The bath, you're supposed to like take the water and put it on yourself, but the water in front of you is taken up by literally another person. That seems like so inefficient. Unless like you want them to like grab water and splash it on both of you, but then it's still going to hit them and it's not going to hit you. What the hell's going on? But as they're in the bath together, naturally you know where this goes. 2 people are naked, and this is a 18+ series. So that leads into scene number 3. Scene number 3 starts at 19 minutes and 45 seconds and goes all the way to 23 minutes and 10 seconds. Could have shaved off that 10 seconds. Could have shaved it off so we could be like on the dot again. But after that, there ends up being the taste testing thing. And throughout this whole episode, there was a mysterious person who kept showing up and actually berated the flavor of the ice cream the first time they showed up. And the second time, they actually praised it a lot more. And it turns out that this secondary character that's been in the background judging this whole time was in fact the main character. Was in fact their parents' former employee who was there just making sure that everything was up to snuff. And it was kind of thrown in at the last second. I think it would have been cool if throughout like the entire series, he was there at least like once or twice at the end of each episode, and they still never acknowledged him until the very end. Like that would have felt cool. But alas, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of cool ideas they probably didn't put in until the last second. So might as well. That being said, afterwards, they end up actually winning the contest, and then 101, the ice cream company that's right next to the side of them, ends up getting kicked out because, well, they don't really have the ability to compete with something that has a clearly superior way of doing it, and since they're a home business, they can do practices that are different from something that's nationally chain recognized. So they end up packing it in and then leaving. Congratulations, the main characters have won on a happy note, and the sister's friends show up at the house to kind of congratulate him. But 5 different girls all in the same area wanting the same person at the exact same time really doesn't lead into a happy home life, at least for the main character. So on that goofy little moment of like the end of Persona 5, when you've redone the thing every single time and gotten a different girl each time, and they all like kind of beat the hell out of you, that's where it ends. And I'd say it's a happy ending. A few bruises never hurt anybody, but a harem is definitely something I'd trade for it. That being said, that's the end. Series, the season itself, it's all over. And I can definitely say that this is not anything bad. This is really good. This is one of those things where it's like consistent through each episode, and I'm really happy that they stuck with it. They didn't do like the weird stuff every single episode to try to drive the plot forward or introduce new characters. They stuck with what they had, and they did it really well. But I guess I should probably go ahead and get into the actual review section of this. So let's get into that. Just to let you know ahead of time, this review is completely my opinion. If you have a different opinion, that's completely okay, and you can do as you want. This is just my perspective of it and my kind of like feel generally. So let's go ahead and talk about the first thing on the list, the animation. Now, I was going to say the animation had fallen off a bit because new episodes tend to do that, where longer series will end up having lesser and lesser strengths. Unfortunately, I don't like being wrong, but I had to suck up my gut. This one was actually really good when it came to animation. There were quite a bit of moments where they actually felt like, instead of like blowing the animation load in the first episode and the other two progressively got worse, this was continuously good over and over and over, and it just continuously left the whole thing feeling like it actually had more to it. And the animation never faltered, really. There was nothing anywhere like spectacular. Like this wasn't Amber Hunters or the beginning of Overflow, but this was really good, and nothing is going to be as bad as the Hammer and Bolter episodes. That's not a hentai, by the way. If any of you out there like Warhammer, dear Christ, I've suffered through Berserk 2016, and I don't want to go back to that and something like this. No, there was no Queen Bee in this, if that's what you're wondering. That being said, the animation in it was solid the entire way through, and I feel like giving it a 7 being like good. 7 is like middle of good and great. Like there's nothing great, but it's not like mid. So that's why I put 7s, but this is just at an 8. It consistently stays at good and then great for a long period of time, and I'm really happy it does. So 8 out of 10 when it comes to the animation. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the story and characters. Now, there is a coherent plot going on this whole time, with characters in the background, like I said, the hooded figure in the background this whole time, the side characters that are the friends of those ones, and unfortunately the comic relief dude that shows up a little bit in this episode and kind of like tries to like drive up business, but he literally shows up once in the beginning and then disappears for the rest of it, and I can't really call him a character. Even though I just don't want to say his name. It's like, it's one of those ones where there's like U's and Y's in it, and you're not like, it's not like Mafuyu. At least that one has like coherence. Plus this dude's one of those ones that's like, heh, picture of girl while she's there, and then they're like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Go away. That's kind of like what's going on. But the characters in this were surprising. Like Mafuyu got the biggest buff out of this whole thing. Like the developers looked at it and was like, you know what? Goth Lolly, we need to buff her up. And then points at her, and now she's funny. There's a point in this when I said there was a rift going on between the sisters. One of the sisters comes out and then gives him a thing of food because he's going to lunch. Mafuyu walks in with her other thing of food, and then instead of putting it on top like, hey, you can have mine too, you just like figure out which one you like better, she takes his food and then puts hers in his hand and then runs off to school with his sister's food. Dude. And it is funny as hell. Like, I don't know why. That just, like, showed up, and then it was so goofy. Like, that was so fucking funny. She has, like, that, like, cat that likes you, but also will never show that she likes you sort of feel. And I don't know why, but I love the hell out of her in this final episode. And the characters also have, like solemn moments, like the airhead Natsumi being the big boob, small head, small brain sort of thing. She actually feels like she's confident in what she's doing, and she's like, yeah, she's like not necessarily like always invested in what's going on, but it kind of brings out how chill she is, and I don't know why. That just like it clicks. It really works well. No, and Akina being like supposed like main girl, the whole thing. She kind of stays with what she had, but she was also pretty good for what she did. That being said, I'm going to give the characters and story an 8 out of 10 for just being coherent this whole time. And finally, like, leading up to something that was, like, kind of rushed at the end, but also pretty satisfying. So I'll give it an 8. Now, finally, the actual thing that we're all here for, the plot. Now, can I say the plot's good? Yes. Can I say the plot's great? No. Is there scenes in it that I actually like really like and would probably like come back to? Yeah, I would necessarily say that this isn't like the best when it comes to the content of the whole thing, but also it's not horrible. Like, this is good. This is solid content. For what's here, there is more, I'd say around half, no, not, just under half. Like 3/7 of it are plot. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's great. That being said, there's no bad parts in it. This is where I say like mid is mid. It's middle of the road. You'd watch it once and you'd never come back to it. And you don't really find any problems with it, but it's mid. This is what I say a 7 would be. Because this is a 7. Like, the plot in this is straight up 7. 10 is, in my opinion, something that is perfect that I will come back to. 5 is mid, and 7 is good. 7 is just solidly good. That being said, that this is a 7 means nothing bad about it, but it doesn't mean there's great things about it. Like I said, I feel like I've kind of gorged myself on vanilla a little bit, and I feel like I need to like expand outwards, which once I'm done with the next review, then I'll start going into it because I already have the thing scripted. That being said, this is a solid 7. This is good. There's a decent amount of it, and it's 3 scenes that give equal time to each character, and I'm really happy that they did it. Do I wish they would have, instead of recapping, done more with Akina in the first episode, or have her been the last girl instead of Mafuyu? Kinda. Is it bad? No. But that's where I'm at. So if we go ahead and add the scores together, 8, 8, and 7, put them together and divide it by 3, we're going to at least get a 7.6 out of 10. That being said, we're going to round up to an 8 out of 10. This is an 8 out of 10. This is a solid ending to a good series. This is a consistently, like, I wouldn't say this is necessarily, like, wholesome, but I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything, like, degenerately bad about this. Like, this is one of those ones that you can use as a starting point, and it's really good. This and Menkitsu Happening, it feels like it's that level of like, there's a lot going on, the girls are really good looking, and the main character is kind of like that typical, like, middle of the road main character. And it's just solid. Like, that's why I'm giving it. It's solid out of 10. It is an 8 out of 10, solid. You can come back to it. There is just greatness in each one. But nothing amazing. 8 out of 10. Which is not bad. So, that being said, I guess I'm going to go ahead and end it there. So, yeah, this is I am recording this on the same day that I'm going to be editing it, which I normally record one day, edit next day, and then script the next one, and then follow suit. That being said, I procrastinated because, like yesterday, Anime was down, and I couldn't get the next script out, so I had to, like, rush it through as fast as I could. But, you know, excuses are excuses, and I'm trying my best to get out as much videos as I can for this and kind of get a backlog going, which is why I'm going to try to record the next video later after I'm done editing. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and thank you all for being here. Thank you all for supporting me. Thank you all for at least subscribing to me. This has been way further than I've ever thought, and I appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thank you, everybody, and remember, have a nice day. Don't be a dick. There's too many of them. And wash your fucking hands. I have been the Doctor. Peace.